Check 1 2, check 1 2.
How are we doing?
It's a little warm up.
Right.
Welcome to the live stream here. Sounds good so far. I don't hear no echo.
Yeah, no, that's much better.
Is Bitcoin about to pop or is it gonna dump?
We got Diddy versus Biddy.
All right. All right.
All right, let's do this.
Let's get rolling. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Roll that intro. Yo. Hey, folks. What's happening? Welcome back to Surely Sound Studio. My name is Martin. You can call me Marty, and this is my show, so let's go. We got AK here with us today. What's happening, brother?
No, nothing too much. Watching the charts, watching Bitcoin, enjoying the Sunday.
It's a beauty day where I am. I know you're not too far away.
No, I think we'll might have some time for a round of golf today.
Oh, wow. So I'm into that. But first, we're going to get into some... a little bit of news that's affecting price, a little bit of charts and stuff like that. We're going to look at the S&P. We're going to look at USDT dominance. We're going to go look at the heat map. We're going to look at Bitcoin in the smaller time frames, but we're going to start with Bitcoin in the larger time frames. And everybody wants to know what's happening. What do we think is going to happen? Where are we going to go from here? Well, what's happening right now is you have inflation fighting against currency debasement, basically de-dollarization, which is kind of the same thing, but they just continue to print money, causing inflation, causing de-dollarization, making everything worse. But the only thing they can do to fix it is to print. So the antidote is the poison, and so inevitably the math is going to lead us to one place and one place only, unless you position yourself properly. And how you're going to do that? Well, the rich own assets. So you're going to want to own assets because they don't care about inflation. In fact, they love it because it makes them richer and it allows them to refund their loans with new borrowed money because the asset that they are borrowing against has increased in value. So it allows them to refinance and get more money and get more money. So inevitably, what are they going to do? Well, we talked about this last week. We said that there was a good chance of higher prices, and we said there was a good chance of us coming up into this line of resistance here, which is all the way from the all-time high. And then we also said that there's a good chance that we will break it and then potentially get stuck right under a fake out to get everybody bullish and to get a bunch of people to buy. Look at all these buys that came in when we broke up above this area. This is where all these buys came in right here. And so now, and all of these ones, late ones and high leverage ones up here. The high leverage ones already got knocked out. Now it looks like they're going to go for some more of the lower leverage ones. We still do have a massive pool of liquidity up here. So always got to be ready for anything. And the money printer wants this, and the currency debasement and the the people that want to force the asset down so they can accumulate more want this liquidity. That's the battle of the bears and the bulls, I guess you could say. But it's funny because it's all really the same thing, but it's manipulated. And so if we look at the higher time frames, we know that we are in a bear market. We know that we are in a downtrend. We know that we are coming to the top line of resistance in this downtrend, and we have, well, a red dot printing here, a red dot printing here. Last time the red dot printed was the exact same scenario. Red dot printed, however, we were more into the green, and then so we got a big move down, waterfall. Almost the exact same scenario here. You can see this trade that I am currently sitting in right now. A little bit in the profit, a little bit in the green, but it was a close one. We almost got knocked. But you got to give it some breathing room when it comes to these scenarios, because you never know what's going on with the news and the money printer. Of course, eventually Bitcoin is going to skyrocket and go to new all-time highs, but they are doing everything they possibly can do to stop that from happening as soon as it could. They're trying to prolong
let's be honest. Let's enjoy the downtime right now. Let's just accumulate while we can. That's just it,
right? Like we've been saying for the last, like, I don't know, 6 months or so, we're praying for the red candles.
Yeah,
so we can.
I don't want to be buying Bitcoin at $200,000 per Bitcoin. Like, no, not right now. In 10 years, sure, fine, whatever. Let me accumulate.
It's funny because, like, at that time, like right now, that sounds ridiculous because we're at $75,000. But
yeah, I know.
Come the time when that happens, it'll be like, well, we may have already revisited 250, so buying at 200 might sound like a deal.
Well, see, here's the thing though. It's like when you've been in it for, years, like you have and I have now for a while. I miss when you were talking about it at 20, 30K.
Yeah.
Like we're in a down 60% from our all-time high, and we're still double what we were.
Absolutely.
Almost triple what we were 3 years ago.
People are more fearful than they've ever been in crypto, and we're at 75K.
Yeah, yeah. Right? I mean, we were praying for that, 3 years ago. Like, oh, are we going to see this again?
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, and that's like we were talking about top watch, looking for the top when we were over here, and we just kind of knew, based on market structure, when you see a trend, you see these big moves up, consolidation, big move up, but smaller than the last one, right? So bigger move. This is a massive move up right here and a massive consolidation, and then another move up, but not as big, and it's consolidation, and a little bit of a liquidity sweep, and then another move up, but nowhere near as big, and then the rounding, because the same thing happens on the smaller time frames if you're trading, scalping. In and out real quick. And so this is on the daily time frame. We see a big move down, consolidation, arguably a little bit of a smaller move, but it's pretty close, move down. What I would say is likely is another move down that's a little bit smaller, and then another one that's a little bit smaller, but before some sideways accumulation into the end of this year, before we see a continuation of the overall trend, which is up and to the right. But that's only going to happen if the people who are trying to manipulate the market get their way. And they typically do, using the news and everything. But this is interesting. Nobody knows why Iran is actually being bombed. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any idea how this stuff works. But I did a quick little fact check, and apparently this is quite true. Iran mines Bitcoin for $13.20 per coin, sells it at 68K because of their energy costs.
Dude, I think we're living in the wrong. You're telling me I can get a Bitcoin for? Yeah, I'm thinking.
Okay, so this is the thing. This is the thing. You don't just get a Bitcoin. You need to win that block reward, right? Yeah. So they're making money the more miners they have. They're just increasing their chances. They don't necessarily get that Bitcoin.
Here's the thing. Once again, what's the war really over?
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, obviously.
This is all about who's world power, the global currency.
Yeah. And I think it's still energy. It's definitely still energy. Oil and other resources make sense, but ultimately what's going to represent all that energy is the most valuable thing, right? And it's not the US dollar anymore.
No.
It's going to be Bitcoin that's going to represent the world energy. So in turn will be the world reserve currency for the world reserve of energy.
Yeah, and it's just you're seeing all this war and stuff because the U.S. is pissed that they can no longer control everybody, because that's what they could do before while being the world currency. Well, we'll just freeze all your assets, right?
Yeah.
They can pull sanctions. You can't freeze Bitcoin. You can't take away a country's Bitcoin. You can't. Bitcoin almost has to call.
This is the thing though, is that you're right, they can't take it away, but they can try and stop. It's the only revenue stream that sanctions can't touch, but they can bomb your servers, bomb your the electricity grid, right?
See, and that's where once the world adopts Bitcoin and accepts it, there will be no reason to bomb each other.
Unfortunately,
right?
This is causing problems right now.
People being pissed off that control's being lost.
It's funny because Bitcoin's hash rate dropped 15% overnight. I noticed that, but didn't know why. And then saw this in the morning. I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. Hash rate dropped because a large amount of miners went offline. So that means that it was, that much harder for Bitcoin to be used.
Yep.
15% overnight, that's pretty significant, right? So obviously there's a plan at large there. And the other thing is too, is like the stock to value ratio is unbelievable. Like all these companies that are on paper getting rich aren't actually making any money. All they're doing is getting large investments, speculative investments that they will have a big chunk of the future economically and value and whatever, right? So it's just a bunch of people putting their money anywhere they think they can, which is very similar to the 2000.com bubble and the 2008 market crash. Everybody just it's one of the peaks of the currency debasement trend, and we see the boom and bust constantly. Well, we have currently we're at the point where it's ridiculous. And look at the trend continue, right? We're at top of the trend line, and every single time we come back down to the bottom, there's the median line in between, and we didn't even get under it. We bounced off of it. So there's a good chance that we go back to, which with this would be called a POC, and then a value area low after a rejection from the high. Pretty likely. So if we look at the traditional stock market and we see this, we were talking about a retracement here and trying to see a rejection from here. Well, guess what happened? After hours trading pushed it out of that trend, and then now it's continued on, and it's just gap. Like
that's manipulation. That's utterly ridiculous.
Well, for some people, the S&P is on the blockchain now. Some exchanges have the S&P tradable on the blockchain, which makes it so it's available to everybody.
Unless it's 100% on blockchain, it can still be frauded.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that when not everybody has access to it, because most people still go through their brokerage, they're getting burned by wasting that time going through the brokerage when they should just be doing it themselves on chain.
Yes, everybody get educated, learn this stuff. It's so simple to purchase this stuff yourself. It's an app on your phone, right? The less time you spend playing Candy Crush, all those hours, put that into an app of investing.
Learning any sort of skill, because true value always shines through. The artificial value made up by middlemen and people that are doing deals, it always falls through. There's always, because those are the greedy people, and they keep pushing and pushing and pushing, or walking out on the pond until the ice gets too thin and they will fall. Meanwhile, the people who actually are smart stay back on the solid ice, and they just continue to live comfortably. They're not going for the thin ice to try and get across the lake. They know you're not going to make it across the lake. Ice is too thin, bud. But Bitcoin may make it so that the ice is thick enough for us to cross the lake one day.
or we just build our own, right?
Well, we'll
build a bridge with the coin. Like You
That's
know,
just it.
it's quit trading the
Everything that's going on with the
convenience of
Clarity Act.
everybody else doing everything, and do it yourself. You save so much more money. You learn so much more. You can educate, and then you can pass that down to your kids as
Yeah.
well, right?
And everything that's going on with the Clarity Act is also manipulating the price, but it's just really a show because they're a group of people trying to govern an ungovernable asset that's backed by math and audited every 10 minutes. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
who you are, who you think you are, what you think you control. It is an entity all on its own, and it is superior to anything that you can try and do, and inevitably will consume everything because of that. So you're going to want to understand why and how you can benefit from that, because the more they print, the more the assets go up, the more money finds its way into hard assets.
Yeah.
Hard assets.
Unless we're going back to the Stone Age where we're trading physical gold at this point,
Yeah, that's just
Bitcoin's the future. It's
Bitcoin
everything.
or barter, right?
Oh.
And I think it's going to be, well, I mean, what would line up with the way that the charts are looking and the way that society is looking is that it's not going to be a smooth transition, and we're going to see a massive bust, historical bust, which would cause and give them the means to the big print, right? They're not going to just big print. They have to cause the problem, wipe everybody out of the market, accumulate as much as they can, and then do the big print to just hope to maintain control of something that is allowing decentralization, basically allowing people to be governed by value, true value, instead of manipulation and artificial promises and smoke and mirrors. So that's what we're paying attention to, because it's coming. It is coming.
Oh, it is.
So, but that's what I think. And then this is another thing that I saw this morning. China's dumping treasuries. We've actually been seeing this happen for a few weeks. Canadian treasuries as well, bonds and all this stuff. Dumped by China. Iran closes Hormuz again last night. It's like it's all just, and again on a weekend. Everything is happening on the weekends.
Yeah.
Because it's market manipulation. Like,
and
they're
then
not.
You can get your information right now, watch the Bitcoin charts, and you can basically predict what's going to happen Monday and get a nice, trade in set up.
Yeah, like it's insane right now. The fact that everything happens, all these major events are happening during after hours trading.
Yeah.
Like, you guys, it's so obvious that it's all an insider's. Like, the government doesn't do anything for the people anymore. It's just an insider trading desk.
Well, remember this, and at this point, it's not some conspiracy crap. All of these people who run the world and run governments and they all went to the same school. Yeah. All of their families are friends. They've grown up together. They've done, when you were young and you had your little gang of friends and everything like that. Well, these people are exactly that, just on a global level. Mm-hmm. Right? It's just, you can't really fathom it, because you're just like, well, how could they do that? Well,
also just born into it, right?
Well, exactly. You're never going to see it because you were never privileged enough to be born into it.
Yeah, and it will happen over 100 years ago, like the real shift. So
yeah, and we're trying to fix it right now, and they don't want that. Their generation is dying out, and the control is going to switch to the people.
Yeah.
And
the last 50 years, their families have been struggling to maintain their way of life, and so they cause more chaos in the people to try and distract us from what they're really doing. And it's getting to a point where they know that it's getting harder for them to obtain. Therefore, they're making things crazier. And if you haven't noticed, in the last 5 to 10 years, ever since Bitcoin has been gaining traction, things continue to get nuttier and crazier. The laws are insane. Like, it's all by design, and it's happened before. This is not the first time this has happened in this society. No, and it won't be the last. Hopefully it's the last. This is the first time we've ever had something like Bitcoin and a digital means to storing your value, and having people able to rely on mathematical governance instead of emotional greed governance, right? It's like, so if anything, this is our one time, but The last time this happened was when the world went to a US dollar standard, a petrodollar. And what happened shortly after that? Well, they fucking ruined it. It worked for a few years. There was quite a few generational families build companies, dollar strong. Like lots of people did well, but then they just fucking ruined it.
You know, the crazy
71,
thing
they fucking ruined it, right? So
if you flip that chart, that's Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like
Inevitably,
that's essentially what Bitcoin is
exactly,
flipping the
pretty
chart.
much, yeah.
Like,
and it's just continuing to hold,
consolidates, and then just levels out.
And so, yeah, like it's this is a good one. My bank notified me that my transaction was approved today. My Bitcoin wallet notified me that my transaction was confirmed today. The difference is subtle yet huge.
Yeah,
that's another thing too. It's like, man, dealing with the bank is an absolute headache. I hate it. It takes like a week to deal with anything, for anybody to do anything, and you're like, that's absurd. That's absurd.
Everybody wants to cut, and it's like, what the hell did you do? You pressed a couple buttons and went, yeah, that should go over here.
Yeah.
Why can't I do that?
And it's because they still believe that, we need people to make sure that everything goes. It's like, no, we need code that's perfect and mathematical to confirm. That's all we need. You don't need somebody to go, okay, yeah, this looks good, and this is here, and this is here. Oh, but wait, I'm not going to come into work till probably 9:30. I got to drop my kid off, and then I'm probably going to be out for a long lunch because he's got a field trip, so I'm going to join him on that, and then I probably won't come back in the office, so I probably won't get to it till tomorrow, or the next day, and that, it's like, man, you're holding up a whole economy here. The slower the money moves, the slower the economy grows.
Yeah.
And of course, that's their job, is to slow everything down, because with the inevitable takeover is with the growth of technology, because technology isn't going to replace the people who are providing value. It's going to replace the people who are parasites, sucking the value out of those who are actually providing it.
Yeah, and no offense to those people, but you knew all along your jobs were useless.
Yeah.
Like, sorry.
It's crazy how many people.
What needs actually to be provided into a society to work, not these useless jobs that pay $150,000 because you know how to manage somebody's feelings.
Yeah, and it's soft value being backed up by soft currency. It's inevitable that it won't work. And I remember probably like 2018, 2019, and even 2020, actually probably more so in 2020 when everyone had to work from home. Me talking to people in different fields and me like, what do you do? What do you do? And they're like, I actually do nothing, man. It blows my mind how many people said, I do nothing. I get paid a lot of money and I do nothing. Really? And you're okay with that? Dude, I fucking love that. I'd fucking play ping pong all day. And I was like, man, that is like, and some of this stuff was in like industrial trade situations, but government jobs.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. You need to get rid of that and start privatizing it.
Yeah, well, it's got to be done properly. That's privatizing hasn't worked for other things.
Well, that's because you get too much of a hard-ass manager or something trying to ruin people, but then the government gets too soft and you end up with a place like, kind of dog-fuck dockyard right there where you have hundreds of people employed and millions of dollars being poured into it, and you honestly want to know what those people do? Nothing.
And dude, the thing is that gets me is they get in trouble for being too productive.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You need the job to last, otherwise you'll work yourself out of a job. Imagine
we're not
being
doing
paid
it for
efficiency.
Yeah, we're not doing it for the product to build the economy. We're doing it just to hold the job so the person can maintain paying income tax as long as possible.
Yeah, so we can collect our dollar on our investment, which is that person. That human is an investment to them. Yeah. You're nothing other than money.
And they don't want you to do anything because if you get hurt, then you're a liability.
Yep, it's easier to pay somebody to sit there to do nothing and collect off 35 years of them paying taxes.
Yeah,
than it is for somebody to be efficient, get a job done, and grow an economy.
Especially when they can just print money to cover the difference.
Look at that.
Whenever there's an unbalanced budget, because of that, they can just print money to cover the difference. And of course, where does that money go? The top 0.001% is where most of it goes.
Yep.
And all the households, it does not go anywhere. Like this is ever since they started off the gold standard and started printing money with no cap. I mean, they just moved the cap, but basically nothing to stop it. Inflation has made these people that much more richer than these people because they hold the assets.
Yeah. Like here's a great example, because the place that I work is a union, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, I think they all just agreed to a new contract, which I don't agree to. It's an absolute joke, but it's a 10% wage increase over 3 years. So I'll just honestly right now, I'll tell you that 10% wage increase over 3 years gives me another $3 an hour.
Yeah.
So if you think that I'm still going to be working for you for $3 an hour more in 3 years, like you're out of your goddamn mind.
Yeah. Well, they're just hoping that you are out of your mind and don't know the actual numbers, right?
Well, the thing is the union can say no to signing it and just simply say, no, we go on strike. Like, look, I'm sorry, but if we're not making, because I'm already paid way less than everybody else in my industry. You know, my industry gets paid roughly like anywhere from $39 to $42 an hour kind of thing now, whereas I'm at like 33. So if you think in 3 years I'm gonna still be $4 an hour less than what those guys are now, because in 3 years, think about what they're going to be getting paid.
Yeah,
which is probably going to be 40, closer up to 50 an hour, which is
and inflation's going to be probably in the double digits.
Well, that's the thing. It's not even going to be it's still not going to be a livable wage, but I mean, it's going to be better than my wage.
But you know what they're going to come up with? Well, they've already come up with a lot of them, but like you get your grocery benefit, you get your fuel rebate, you get all these fucking things that they're printing more money to provide.
Yeah, I don't
to try and make it
anybody.
sound like a better deal for you, but really let's know that's a confirmation of failure by your government. They shouldn't be giving you money. That's
I don't rely on anybody for anything, because if the government's giving me something, they want something back.
It's not free.
Yeah, so when are they going to start coming back to collect everything they've given me?
Either one, yeah. Well, the one thing is they'll come back and collect it actually physically, like from your tax return.
They'll take you to jail basically and take your time.
If that doesn't happen, then they print the money to devalue that dollar and take that value from you. Instead of taking the money directly, they'll take the value from you by printing the money away, printing your savings away, printing your value away. So it's never free. One way or another, they take from you. And it's not, and they isn't just the government, although a majority is, but it's also the investors and the asset holders. Those who save money and try to accumulate dollars will fall because it's not going to work. They can just print it out of thin air. It's not something that you want to hold on to. You need to make your money work for you.
Imagine being able to call your friend up, being like, hey man, I need another, $2 million in the economy. You mind printing that up for me? Yeah, sure. We'll get that chopped up. How much do you want sent over to you first before we throw it out everywhere else?
Well, and that's just it. And they just do it all with a computer now too, right? So they don't even need to print. It's instant.
Yeah, it's just a couple numbers on a computer.
Well, this is just it, right?
I want to live with digital currency.
We're seeing the most overinflated market than we've ever seen before, as far as it providing no value, but is actually at all-time highs in value. So it's the perfect storm for a massive collapse, a shakeout of everybody so that they can accumulate at low prices and then give a excuse to bring in the digital currency.
Yeah, but you don't want a centralized one that they created. That's the thing.
But that's what it's looking like to me. Honestly, looking like to me like it's setting up for the perfect storm. And with the S&P...
And everybody's going to go for it too. And they're going to say, oh,
well, they're going to be forced to.
I know they're going to get forced to, but they're not even going to know they got forced to.
Well, that's the thing, whether they like it or not, they're going to make it sound so sweet. And the big print is going to cause people to lose from de-dollarization, right? So they're going to be, it's starting to happen faster and faster and faster. Oh, little pumpkin.
Yeah, no, and like I said this years ago, like when I was in the real estate industry, I got out of it because I could see everything that was going on and what was happening. And yeah, sure, it's great if, people have to foreclose, you sell their house, whatever. But there's also no buyers, right? If everybody's losing, who the hell's picking this up? Well, who do you think's trying to pick it up? The government, because they want to buy all these properties. They want to introduce, high occupancy living in tall buildings and keep everybody in one place. And that eventually is the goal.
Yeah. And it's beneficial for them to just keep printing, because then they just maintain control. And that's why it's going to continue to happen. And we may not see a massive crash, because if they can just continue to DCA and continue to keep people confused and can just continue to print assets into up to the moon, well, maybe they do that. It makes it. I think they're more greedy than that. So I think like it would make a lot more sense, because all it takes is just the start of the waterfall, and then all these people start getting margin called, all these over leveraged positions get liquidated, and it just causes a massive drop, which drops right into their orders that they have, and eventually, within a week or two pops right back up. But they don't talk about that in the news. They only talk about the negative or whatever benefits them. They're not telling you to buy, or they're like, oh my God, the market's down 50%.
Yeah,
and then it goes drops another 10% because people are scared. And then when it drops that extra 10%, like we've talked about it before, we have the whales making their moves, and then retail plays, and then the whales will make their move. And so if this goes up to here, which was our target, but doesn't come as high on the strength, and then means Bitcoin's going down for another low. But also we would look, pretty nice for a bearish divergence on dominance, which would be a bullish divergence and some sort of a bottom forming for Bitcoin. So this here, yeah, like I don't know, if this breaks down here, then this line is basically the same line as this line. So we're gonna keep an eye on it. I think personally, greed will prevail, and they're gonna continue doing that. But maybe it doesn't. Maybe we do come all the way back up here, and then we had that line drawn before where there is definitely a scenario where we come back up to 85K, and then maybe that's the lower high. Because if we look at the fib from here, see right where it took off, down to the bottom there, yeah, like the golden pocket right in there, 786 could very well. I can't see where that wick's right there. So oh yeah, it looks like we bounced off the golden pocket already. And so if we can get up in here, then likely we're coming up in here. If we don't get rejected and the move doesn't happen, that's why we stop it out there, and then look for another position up in here, which was totally healthy. Come back to our moving average. But
I think we're going to be dumping again here in another.
Are they going to allow that to happen? I guess it would add a bunch more liquidity. It would get a bunch more people stoked, and a bunch more people would buy, and then they would in turn come all the way back down and take out this low again. This
just right now we're in a clear pattern that trading's been so screwed up lately with news and the war and everything, and that long big bull run we had there, that was a clear pattern. And right now, I'm just seeing a pattern still going bear for right now.
Yeah.
Obviously you can see in your chart there the little U shape before it took off.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Just, simple little things like that I've noticed over the last few years before it takes off. And right now we just keep seeing kind of humps lower.
Yeah. Yeah. The fractals are I don't know, right side up. You want to wait for them to be upside down.
Yeah.
And this is a 5-minute time frame, right? So you're gonna see 1,000 of these before you see one on the daily. And so this is it's pretty nice little, I think they call it the Adam and Eve or the Adam and Steve, depending on who you are. But the rounding is nice, and but that's 2 or 3 in the morning
but
for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the other thing. The last 2 weeks, 4 a.m. trades of that's been major candles between
every
3
Monday
and 4.
or every morning. Yeah, every morning at and so, but it's weird because I guess that would be potentially early hours trading East Coast, United States, New York Open. So it's like pre-New York Open, and a bunch of people are buying. So that would be the institutional inflows.
Because those are huge candles to watch if you want to trade. Just wake up at that time and make that's.
Yeah.
If you can figure out the weekend news and kind of where things are going to go, watch for 5 minutes, and
Yeah.
they're real nice trades. But then you can kind of get the value area high and low for the day and trade within it.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll see that impulse move in the beginning, and then by the time, we're up and looking to make some moves, it's already happened. So you can look to counter sometimes, but for the most part, there's a lot of spot buying over the last little while, like aggressive amount of spot buying, which is where the printed money is going, basically.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that Bitcoin will continue to go up because inevitably it will. They're only expecting more downside if the people that are greedy and control the market and manipulate the market want that to happen. Inevitably, pushing Bitcoin down at this point is harder than it going up. It's really easy for Bitcoin to pump because of our monetary policy that it's compared to, and that we're valuing Bitcoin in US dollars. It's really a lot easier for it to go up. It's a lot harder to push Bitcoin down at this point because the amount of people that are accumulating it is putting so much buying pressure, and there's not enough demand that we know inevitably we are going to the moon.
We are, for once, for real, we will go to the moon here.
Yeah, that's another thing.
We're not going to have a green screen.
The one thing that I did see, and actually, let's see if I can find it here, because it is significant. Actually, I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm going to get your take on it. See if I can find it here. It should be in this. Let's see. It's about basically energy, right? And we know that Bitcoin takes energy to mine, but is it? Oh, where is it now? Is it actually is as much energy as some people think, or is it actually something sustainable that we could achieve with the right technology? So let's just have a watch for this for a sec here.
About the future of the economic markets. You're famous for predicting 2008 and the financial crash that occurred then. I've heard you saying that you think because of AI there's going to be another financial crash around the corner within 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. What's happening with AI is a classic economic boom and bust cycle, overlaid on the fact that AI can also eliminate a huge amount of employment, which we've never seen that possibility in the past on that scale. But a common pattern in capitalism is that some new technology will be developed, like railways, for example. Some people see the potential profitability of railways. Everybody pours in creating railways. You get too many railways built. 90% of the companies that create the railways go bust, but then we all have these rail systems that we benefit from afterwards. So that's the classic pattern. Joseph Schumpeter was the person who best described that, that Austrian economist from the early 20th century. So he said, you'll get the banks will finance a new investment area. That investment produces a new technology, which causes a boom while you're building the technology. But when the technology comes online, it undercuts existing businesses and causes a slump. So that boom and slump cycle.
So that is basically what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
Everything's speculative, and eventually there's basically people digging their own graves, so to speak, by creating the technology that's going to replace them.
Yeah.
And
like, it's sad, but even my wife knows. She was like, I'm going to get replaced one day, like,
yeah. I mean, if you're doing something that can be automated, then why, it's just a matter of time.
Right. Well, yeah. If it's taxes basically involved in that some way, shape, or form,
well, and that's kind of another.
Like all of those tax people,
that's the resistance, right?
Things like that. That's all going to be a program you can download that does AI. AI will do it all for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
For $29.99 a month, will be your accountant.
But of course, the result of that. Let's see. I think he talks about it here.
Yeah, is
a natural example of that. And what you get is massive overinvestment in the first instance, because everybody who invests in AI has the ambition of being the only AI provider on the planet. Therefore, you get too many companies investing. There's too much money going into it. That's what causes a boom. But then when the technology comes online, because it undercuts existing technologies, you have a slump.
And when you look at the investment taking place at the moment, the big tech companies, Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, who own Google, Oracle, is on track to spend $720 billion on AI infrastructure in 2026 alone, which is less than 20% of the revenue that they're making. We are seeing a 5-to-1 ratio of money being spent versus money coming in, which is historically unsustainable.
Yeah, right, and that's basically exactly what we were looking at with the Warren Buffett indicator.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable.
No, it's the way of life has to change now because of technology. It's just how do you do it? Well, I mean, honestly, one way is cut the work week in half basically and stop, trying to produce so fast and start trying to maintain and innovate and create a future for generations to build on of what you've created.
The whole thing needs to be restructured, because right now we're actually structured around inflation and positive GDP and having those numbers line up. But with compound interest, it's only, we knew the gap would close eventually. And so you're looking at basically two lines, which way are we going here? Two lines that you're trying to keep going parallel, but ultimately it's actually a triangle that's getting closer and closer and closer. And eventually, once that apex happens and this one passes over, then you have the hyperinflation, unsustainability, and you lose the math. The math then, everything breaks basically. And what's happening right now with the money printing is they're just trying to, they're trying to soften that bubble, soften that landing, and ultimately all it does is just make things worse in the long run. It's basically just, it's not solving the problem. It's just kicking the can down the road, so to speak. And unfortunately, when the can hits the cliff, there's no more road to go. It's going to get worse and worse as they're kicking the can up the road. Eventually, the higher they go, the harder the fall.
Yeah. It's going to roll right back down.
Okay, listen to this.
There has to be a slump coming out of this. And in a sense, that's part of the natural cyclical behavior of capitalism. Because if you want to make a profit, you've got to bring in technology that undercuts everybody you're currently rivals with. So that's the railways are a classic example there. You had to get around by carriage instead. You undermine the carriage companies by bringing in the railways. But the ultimate benefit, society benefits, because now you've got the railways for transportation. So that's the same sort of thing that AI is doing this time around. But companies, 90% of those companies are going to fail.
I mean, this is kind of what we're seeing already. So the failure rate of AI-specific startups has hit 90% in 2026.
Wow, that's luck.
Yeah, you predicted that one correctly. Significantly higher than the 70% average for general technology. Roughly 95% of enterprise AI pilots fail to move into production when they incur massive costs. The other thing I think a lot about is a lot of startups now are raising a lot of money at crazy valuations. I can think of one particular startup I know. They're making like a couple of $1 million a year. They've raised at $1 billion valuation.
Wow, yeah.
And because they've got the word AI on them. And the thing is, because everyone's such in a frenzy at the moment about AI, they're probably going to raise at a $2 billion valuation 6 months from now.
Yeah.
When you think about what's going on there, someone somewhere is putting their money in.
And they're going to lose it all.
And they're going to lose it all. And when everybody starts losing all their money very, very quickly, you see this contraction.
Yeah.
Where everybody realizes that their paper gains, the gains they thought they had on paper because of valuation went up, have just evaporated. And when you see that, you have to quickly count your pennies.
Yeah.
And get frugal.
And pull back in again.
Lay people off, and so on and so forth. So I actually do personally believe that we're probably within 24 months of a pretty severe contraction. And that won't just impact these tech oligarchs, it'll impact all of us in different ways.
Yeah, it's a boom and bust cycle. I mean, the only thing which we've experienced in our own lives, which is similar, would be the telecommunications bubble and then the internet bubble between 1990 and 2001, 2002. We don't get bubbles in the internet anymore because that's now a stable technology in that sense. But it wasn't a big one. This is much bigger.
What do we do as entrepreneurs, as team members and companies? What do we do at this moment if what you're saying is correct, that there will be a
boom and bust?
A boom and bust. Which I think every smart person that I've spoken to agrees that there will be a bust soon.
Yeah.
Their timelines vary.
Yeah.
But what does one do right now in March, April 2026 to prepare for this?
Well, you put money aside if you can. You buy other assets you think are going to survive the boom and bust cycle.
Like what?
That's the trouble. I mean, gold's been driven up. Gold's now been driven down. People are buying Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is collapsing as well. In some ways,
Bitcoin is collapsing, he says.
Oh, yeah.
This guy's got some good points, though. It's funny. And the first time I watched this, I was kind of like, all right there, Mr. Dinosaur. But he's got some good points. But it's funny because I'll talk about his points afterwards. But listen to this.
I would say the same crap, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But
now it's rounded out just like everything else is. But just listen to this. This is good.
You can't. It's like saying, what do I do during an earthquake to not fall over? In terms of insulating yourself, I really can't see a way of insulating yourself from the downturn. But I'm not worried about that as long-term consequences of AI, because this is the first technology which implies you can actually virtually eliminate labor as necessary for reducing output, because you can use AI rather than clerks. You can use, I know this is a long way from being feasible, but robots could replace process workers. And then suddenly something which employs 70% of the global population is no longer necessary. And then what do you do in that situation? What I've seen, which I respect, coming out of the tech bros in America, is they're talking in terms of universal basic income.
You think a universal basic income is a good idea? We should probably explain what that is.
Yeah, well, it's the state provides everybody with enough money to stay alive. That's the basic idea. Rather than having to work for a living, at the minimum, you get paid an amount of money that means you can buy the goods and services that are necessary to stay alive. You don't necessarily prosper, but you get enough to survive. And so that's the idea of UBI. Now, at the moment, to survive, you've got to have a job. And like that guy you mentioned is working at three jobs right now. If he got a UBI, he wouldn't have to work at those 3 jobs. He might work at one, or he might actually consider his own business possibilities in that situation. So I think universal basic income is a necessity, given what robotics and AI can do to employment.
And you think up to 50% of...
So it makes sense. You just want to make sure that whoever's controlling that UBI has, accountability, is held accountable for their actions, because that'd be a centralized asset. Centralized, that's sketchy. That's pretty sketchy.
I would never do that, because that's exactly how you create different classes. There's your poor, your middle class, and your wealthy.
or
Oh,
probably.
well, this is currently where you're at. We're just going to give you enough to get by where you're currently at,
Well,
even though we know you're trying to work to get out of
the
it.
question is how do they evaluate that? And it's going to be not based on a value you've provided. It's going to be based on the value you've accumulated, right? So if you
And it's
own a
going to
house,
be
if you
based
own a
on what they
business, if you have
want to
assets
give
and a
you.
net worth, of over $1 million, then because they're, I mean, a lot of the times in crypto, they do what's called a snapshot. And because the chain is constantly changing, but when something happens, they need to take a snapshot. And at that snapshot, that's where the new, whatever the changes are, whatever is happening, it happens at that snapshot, because it'll never stop changing with new transactions and everything. But
Yeah.
at some point, they have to say, okay, take the snapshot, and from here on out, it is now like this. So
Yeah.
they could do something very similar where they take a snapshot and it's a credit score thing, or it's a net worth thing, or whatever. And at that snapshot, wherever you are is where you will be. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and let's be real here. 99% of the people here have a negative net value. So basically,
Oh, yeah.
you're now owned by the government,
Exactly. Sorry.
right? Like you are, your property, you're owned. You all sit there and go, well, the house is worth this, but you owe, right? Like you owe on this, you owe on that. You don't, like, if you need to buy assets that grow in value and then purchase things with that value that are less than the value.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't do too well, and it's gone. But what do you mean? I just had $100. Yeah. Sorry, I put it in some investments and it did too well. Let's go.
Yeah, that's I love that episode.
It's so funny. Okay, wait. He gets to Bitcoin here shortly.
Working class jobs could be wiped out because of AI and robotics.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been a prediction from the leaders of some of the biggest companies in AI. I heard the leader of Anthropic recently say the same thing. He thinks 50% of jobs could be wiped out. I think the shocking thing that we talked a lot about in the show is just, there's been other sort of economic or industrial revolutions in the past that have.
And there was one woman they found whose job it was to place a thermostat that pays you money. It was a totally boring job. That's all she's doing. Robot on it. The robot.
At entry-level positions, there's going to be technology that can do those exact roles.
But you're actually making the decision yourself.
And then it's theory. It's this thing on my Twitter feed, like blah blah blah, whatever. You hear on a podcast, you go blah blah blah, what?
Right.
About AI agents. That's kind of the word use expertise. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you look at the data, very some of the data up on the screen, it appears that these sort of entry-level white-collar jobs are the ones that are right now suffering. Some of these investment companies would highlight.
Which I've got one programmer for, and he's trying to tell me that we should get my main programmer to learn to drive that.
Programmers, as I think for AI, when creating technology becomes easier,
Let's exploit the workers. Okay? The real world is we've been exploiting energy mutually. Both labor and capital exploits energy. And we could have a future where we don't have to work for a living, and therefore you could do what you want to do for a living. That's the Star Trek future. That's the possibility that it promises. But at the same time, it could actually eliminate the jobs that people currently rely upon. And what I fear is we have two possibilities. We have a future where, Star Trek type future, where you have replicators that make the goods we consume, and we all live an energy abundant life, or the Hunger Games, where there's one that.
So funny. This is funny. This is very significant. We've been talking about this for years.
Yeah.
Right? And he's saying the Star Trek or the Hunger Games. And honestly, I think they're both the same. It's just perspective. You have in Hunger Games, you're just getting to see the poor class. In Star Trek, you don't see the poor class. They just don't show them.
Yeah, of
They're
course.
there. There's always going to be a massive group of people that weren't born into a certain situation, or for one reason or another, whether they got the short straw, whatever the reason is, there's going to be your District 1 and your other districts that are in much lower classes for whatever reason. This just happens to be the way that it's almost like an ignorance thing for the people who pay attention and position themselves properly. Their families prosper, but those who are just like, oh, whatever, I'm going to do this, or whatever, I'm going to do this, like they don't care, they just decide to be ignorant about it. Those are the people that end up suffering, and then their families suffer, because you need generations to accumulate assets to be quote unquote free these days. You can't just build a business and you can if you do it in the right way, but it doesn't happen like it used to. You need to have all the skills to do something with computers, tech-wise, some sort of e-commerce business that you're selling to every single person in the world. Everybody needs this straw topper or whatever it is. Like it's a lot of work. A lot of people aren't into doing that. They'd rather do physical work because that's what they know or whatever. But ultimately, I think it's inevitable. We are going to see the Hunger Games type scenario. Just the only difference that he is talking about with the Star Wars thing is that they just didn't show, they didn't show those people in the Star Trek theory.
No,
unfortunately.
No. Why would you? That's not the image they want to paint.
Exactly. But it's Yeah, it's unfortunate, but the thing is this is why we're on here, trying to get people to understand, like, this is happening whether you like it or not. Your opinion doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. The mathematics, the history, what's happened before, what's happening with de-dollarization is now. It's just what happens. It's repeating itself over and over again, and we're just seeing the same thing over and
in
over
100
again.
years, however they're teaching school or whatever, this moment in history or this time period is going to be, the collapse of America or whatever. I mean, we'll all be dead, but that's what they'll teach. This is the collapse of the petrodollar, and this is how we moved into today's currency.
Yeah. And they'll rewrite it whichever way they want to, but
it's
of course, crazy, right?
They're going to be some type of hero, whoever.
We're living through it right now, and we get a chance to participate basically on the initial coin offering, right? This is still Bitcoin's initial coin offering. If you look at it in the long term, it's looking to be set up for 1,000 years, right? So we are here in the creation days. Like, it's still the creation days right now. Even though Bitcoin has been over 100,000 US, we're still sitting here with a tangible, it's still tangible for everybody.
We've basically just discovered fire.
Financial equality is still tangible.
This is Okay,
here we go. Equivalent. He's getting into the Bitcoin after this one.
Elite that has all the robots and lives extremely well, and we tolerate and oppress the vast majority, and they end up, Hunger Game entertainment. Those are the two possibilities we face.
I do think the cost of goods and services will come down, which is great. Yeah. I think robotics, if Elon is right, and I often say with Elon, like, his timelines are not always accurate, but he does tend to deliver magic.
He ultimately delivers, but he always overpromises and delivers later than he plans.
And if he's right about when he says there's going to be more humanoid robots, his Optimus robots, than humans, and he says also in his predictions that there's going to be no need to study to be a surgeon because the robots are going to be so much more advanced and better than any living surgeon, that would imply that surgery and other sort of medical diagnoses.
Well, then what will be the use for a human there, guys? Careful.
Procedures are going to be incredibly cheap, incredibly quick. Great.
How do you pay for them? That's the next question.
Yeah. So, how do you pay for them? And do people want to,
It's also the physical requirements. I mean, the amount of copper inside a robot, you're talking several kilos per robot. Do we have enough to produce 8 billion of them?
And maybe, surgeons do much more than just operate.
Yeah.
There's a human eye.
Because of its reliance on energy. I mean,
here we go.
To zero.
Yeah.
Okay, this is worrying. I think I have some Bitcoin. I don't know if I'm quite ready to go talk to a robot about my health yet. Maybe I'll adjust. I wanted to come back to something you actually said earlier. You talked about Bitcoin briefly.
Yeah.
I've heard you say that you think Bitcoin's going to zero.
Yeah.
Okay, this is worrying. I think I have some Bitcoin. You're an economist. Yeah. You're saying that Bitcoin is going to zero. Why?
Because of its reliance on energy. I mean, you know Max Kaiser and Stacey Herbert. Have you met them at all?
No.
They were sort of the original proselytizers for Bitcoin, and they're now living in, I think, El Salvador, which has adopted Bitcoin as a form of currency. When they told me about Bitcoin, I could have bought it for £1 of Bitcoin, which I would have been maybe wealthier than you if I'd done that. The reason I didn't was they explained that the way that the public ledger is kept safe is that it takes too much energy to break it. So each transaction requires 10 minutes of computer processing time globally, by the looks of it, to actually create an extra Bitcoin. And that means it's too expensive for somebody to try to break the ledger. That means it's got a huge requirement for energy use. And I believe, knowing what I know from climate scientists, that at some point we're going to realize we're using far too much energy on the planet. We've got to cut the energy consumption. And the two easiest things to cut out to reduce energy consumption are cryptocurrencies and international travel.
But aren't you saying that nuclear energy is becoming vogue again? And they're talking a lot about...
It's the amount of time it takes to build that stuff. I mean, China's building nuclear power stations at a hell of a rate and much, much cheaper, more cheaply than America.
So you hear that? He's talking about energy. So
and that's where we're going in the future. It's going to go back to nuclear energy one way or the other, because they're going to learn how to manage and contain it. When you build these facilities, you need to build it so that if there is something seriously goes wrong, you've got a massive stone structure containing all that crap. Build it underground, do something to keep the public safe, but eventually you do need to transition.
This is just it, right? One way or another, the steam engine on a train or the train itself or whatever you want to look at was built before the tracks, right? And then they have to lay the tracks afterwards. The technology was invented, and then they had to put the railway in. So it's going to be, nothing's going to be different here. The technology is here, and one way or another, we're going to have to find a way to sustain it, because it's going to be what everything's relying on. And obviously, maybe it'll be jumped to too soon, but inevitably it'll just continue with the boom and bust cycle. And so we will have and see the same thing we've seen over and over and over again. Now, the funny thing is he mentions that it is not sustainable for this biosphere, so our planet, right? And I like it too, because it's totally true. This biosphere that we are living on should be treated more like an Avatar type scenario, like the Not V people, where they live with and on the land. The fact that we have all this digital technology, this is not actually what this place was created for. That we don't need this. This is what we are doing right now is space age shit. Literally,
Star Wars, man.
Bitcoin
Give me my lightsaber.
is so ahead of its time that it is designed for star type energy. Like, we're talking star energy here, not oil, not nuclear, not wind, water. We're talking about star energy here. At some point, it's not like that right now, and he does exaggerate. It doesn't actually take that much energy, and it is getting more efficient every day. He even said that he heard about this when Bitcoin was at £1. So you're talking about 12 years ago. A lot of things have changed since then. He needs to definitely up his education on the way that things have changed. He might change his outlook a little bit. But ultimately, he's got the right idea, as in that this biosphere only limits us to a certain amount of energy use, because it's not designed to be and sustain a group of entities that need star energy. That's what space is for, right? We're supposed to be small-time native type people here, like you see in Avatar. And the crazy thing is that we have the fungi roots that all the trees are connected through, that they talk about on there. We have arguably telepathic technologies within our own mind to connect to other people and to connect to animals, right? Like, you can't deny that. If you are a calm person and you go up to a horse, the horse knows you're a calm person. If you're scared and you go up to a horse, the horse knows you're scared, okay?
Even
vibes are real, and if you really want to get down to it, it's just telepathy, right? And in Avatar, they actually use their thing, and they make the neural connection a wired connection, whereas we are living in a world that we're watching things go from being wired to becoming wireless. So why isn't it possible that we were once wired and have evolved to become wireless? Well, you go into the forest and you touch the trees and you spend time in the forest. It grounds you. It heals you. You don't even have to touch a tree. You just being in the environment and the magnetic fields, it heals you. So it's undeniable. I don't care what anybody else says. Do your own research and actually do it. Don't just read somebody else's findings. Yeah. Do it for yourself. Do somebody's your own research. Opinion. Right? And it's undeniable that the place that we live in is meant for so much more than we are using it for. It would be, I think it's more designed for a Avatar, Nat V type people where we live on the land and where people did hundreds of years ago.
Hell, dude, they still do in some parts of the world. We're aliens to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actual aliens. They'll just kill you because they're like, what the hell is that thing?
Exactly. And I think they got it right. I mean, our lives are amazing because we have all this stuff, and I freaking can't get enough of this tech shit. I love it. I'm nose deep in it all the time, but I would totally be okay with.
They're the ones living life right, the human life, right?
Yeah.
They're out in the land. They haven't destroyed the world that they live in or were born in. Yeah. They've learned to live among it.
Yeah, that's sustainability right there. That's sustainable. What we're doing is we're biting off too much. We're biting off a little bit more than we can chew, and we really need to pay attention how we move forward with doing it and who we let be in charge of making certain decisions, because it's profits over people. For the most part, for the most people who are in those spaces, it's profits over people, and that's just never, ever going to work out for the people, obviously. Well, we're going on an hour here. That was a pretty good stream. Saw a little bit of a dump, but we're holding down here.
Yeah, we are.
How's a 15-minute looking? Showing a little bit of a buy signal here. Let's see. Money flow's coming up. Momentum's actually kind of coming up. Might see some relief here. Might come back up.
That's what I'm worried about. I don't know if I should close this out and fucking wait for a little pump up or just.
Yeah, could close the short and might get a better entry, honestly. What do we have here? We got this little.
Hell, I've done well on it. 38% return. So.
Got this trend going on here.
But I also feel like this is just going to dump later on.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know it's inevitably coming at some point here, and we've had this is actually, so we have this, obviously this downtrend here, and we broke out and then we broke right back in. So that's a failed bullish move, and there's nothing more bearish than a failed bullish move.
Right? That's what I've been reading. But you know what? For the last 2 weeks, I've read the charts completely wrong, apparently. And I've heard a lot of other people took the time off trading because it was just...
Well, when the TA gets thrown out the window because it's all news-based stuff, then it's impossible. It's just all manipulation. And the people with the oil trades has been insane with all these massive positions put 20 minutes before massive announcements. It's like, man, it's the government is an insider trading desk. They don't care about the people. They're just making themselves filthy rich.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, there's still a lot more liquidity to be targeted to the downside, and there's still more to be targeted to the upside. But the further down they go, the more liquidity they allow to accumulate it to the top side when inevitably we go get it, because we know we will eventually. But yeah, I don't know. This is kind of significant for me, the way that we were deep into the red, and in the bear market, you spend a lot of the time into the red, and then you come up into the green for a little bit, and then you go down into the red. We had a big red wave, little green wave, big red wave, little green wave. Yeah. Oh, is that the daily? Okay, that's the daily. It's kind of got a faint red dot. It did break this trend line that I was talking about too in the RSI. So definitely want to pay attention to this. If we do hold right here and we don't see a big drop on Monday, like soon, maybe even tonight, if we don't see the big dump, it might be a good idea to close shorts and wait for better positions, better entries, because we could
Tuesday or Wednesday will be probably the better time to get a short in then.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. The higher time frames, the high to medium time frames are looking like rollover and potentially value area low and or POC visit. But let's see. Actually, look at that. Let's look at the weekly. Weekly here is crossing into the green, but doesn't look like it's very sharp. Yeah, this weekly close is going to tell a lot. So in about 5 hours, we see the weekly close, and honestly, looks pretty similar to this one. A pump up to the trend line and a rejection. This one was crossing over into the red, so very bearish. This one is crossed over into the green, is potentially rolling right back over. So yeah, this is significant to say the least. And even this RSI has made a higher high than the RSI here, but the price has made a lower high. So
yeah, we just had a big pump up there too.
Looking,
I mean, not big, but you know, decent sized pump. Took away 5% of my return. So
oh shit. Yeah, well, I mean, watch this channel and see. Might not be a bad idea just to toss your stop into profit and see what you can let the market take, what the market gives you.
That's right.
If you get stopped out in profit, you still made money. But if it does continue to go down, then usually on the bigger ones, I'll do once I find that the break of structure, I'm happy with the direction, I'll start to trail my stop, as well as do TPs along the way at significant volume nodes. But yeah, absolutely. Keeping an eye on it. All right, you gonna come by for some GT?
Yeah, I was gonna say, you want to get a round in?
I'm definitely down for a round. All right, man. Well, another good stream. Another future prediction that most likely will come true.
Yeah, we hit it last week.
Based on math and nothing else. Not our opinion at all. If you are out there, smash the like button and subscribe. And, make sure you share the channel with your mom, because you don't want her to be left out on the streets after the final currency is debased and we're no longer living on fiat standard.
Save your family.
Yeah, save your family, save yourself. Put your oxygen mask on before helping others, though. Always. Always. Do your own research, folks, and get outside and enjoy the sunshine and nature and the planet as it was intended to be enjoyed. All right? Love you. Peace.
Right. See you later.
I recommend putting your opinions aside and learning how to think logically.